The Crafts waste no time firing Jerod Mayo. We break it all down and look ahead here on Patscast.
The season's over, the fans all gone. Jerod Mayo's first year, cut to the bone. Robert Kraft's got the guts. No
Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Breaking news. The New England Patriots have let go of head coach Jerod Mayo after just one season. And, I just finished recording a podcast coming off of the Patriots' upsetting 23-16 victory over the Bills. I'll get into the whole draft stuff and all of that in just a minute, but this is some pretty big breaking news. Obviously, this was a decision made by the Crafts earlier this week, in all likelihood. We thought that Jerod Mayo would probably be back after the Patriots were competitive against the Buffalo Bills a couple weeks ago when they were actually trying. But the 40-7 loss to the LA Chargers probably was the final nail in the coffin. And the Patriots and Robert Kraft just issued a statement seconds ago, and I'll read it here because this is just breaking as I'm recording this. The statement says, after the game today, I informed Jerod Mayo that he will not be returning as the head coach of the New England Patriots in 2025. For me personally, this was one of the hardest decisions I have ever made. I have known Jerod for 17 years. He earned my respect and admiration as a rookie in 2008 and throughout his career for his play on the field. His leadership in the locker room and the way he conducted himself in our community. When he joined our coaching staff, his leadership was even more evident as I saw how the players responded to him. When other teams started requesting to interview him, I feared I would lose him and committed to making him our next head coach. Winning our season opener on the road at Cincinnati only strengthened my convictions. Unfortunately, the trajectory of our team's performance throughout the season did not ascend as I had hoped. Since buying the team, I have always considered myself and my family as custodians of a public asset. We have tremendous fans who expect and deserve a better product than we have delivered in recent years. I apologize for that. I have given much thought and consideration as to what actions I can take to expedite our return to championship contention and determine this move was the best option at this time. I am grateful for Jerod's many contributions to the New England Patriots throughout his career and will always be rooting for his success. I appreciate all his hard work and hope the experiences gained will help him in the future, as I still believe he will be a successful head coach in the league. I wish Jerod and his family nothing but success in the future. That is the statement from Patriots chairman and CEO Robert Kraft, making the tough and emotional decision to let go of Jerod Mayo as their head coach after just one season. And I thought this would take a couple of days. I'm really stunned. Like I said, I just did a podcast where I talked about the game, and I'll get to the game in just a moment. But what I said was, look, Kraft's going to take his time on this, just like he did last year with Belichick. This isn't going to be a Black Monday. This is going to be a situation where Kraft gives it a day, and he talks it over with Jonathan, make sure everyone's aligned, and then the news would probably break sometime Tuesday or Wednesday. It's Black Sunday. It's not even Black Monday. Jerod Mayo is out as the Patriots head coach, and ultimately, I think this was the right decision. And look, first of all, Jerod Mayo was put in a bad spot. Let's be honest about that. He seems like a guy that players can really connect with. He seemed like someone that is a really good person and certainly has had a great career in New England as a player. 2 Pro Bowls, made a Pro Bowl as a rookie. I think he was Defensive Rookie of the Year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Really great career with the Patriots, obviously won Super Bowls. Very successful on the defensive side of the football and the coaching staff, but just didn't work out as head coach. He was the youngest in the league. There's going to be some bad PR coming out of this. I mean, the Patriots let go of their first black head coach in the franchise's history. There's going to be backlash for that, but ultimately, I think this was the right decision. And, I think if it weren't for the opportunity cost of losing out on a guy like Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson potentially as their next head coach, we know Mike Vrabel is heavily interested in returning to the Patriots. Well, then I'd be a little bit more open to Jerod Mayo coming back and just seeing if there's growth, if there's any potential there. But ultimately, Vrabel, there's a much higher likelihood he brings the Patriots back to championship contention than Jerod Mayo after what we saw this year. And what did we see this year? Not a lot of improvement. The defense regressed from and probably a top 10. They were a top 10 NFL defense last year. And this year, they're bottom 5 in most categories, even with Christian Gonzalez going out there on the field and playing every game except for this last one where he was out in the concussion. Had trouble communicating with the media, was constantly walking himself back from what he said on Sunday, the following day on Monday, including throwing his offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, under the bus. As we've heard on Boston Sports Talk Radio, they call it Walk Back Mayo Monday, and that was becoming a trend. And, there are little things, him poking at Bill Belichick, drinking orange juice, and then spilling it on himself at the owners' meeting. That was like our first big impression on Jerod Mayo. He also said, we're going to burn some cash in free agency, and they proceeded to not spend any cash. And, in-game decisions, didn't know the direction the wind was blowing in overtime against the Tennessee Titans. The constant messaging of Drake May and Jacoby Brissett during training camp, and then saying Drake May outplayed Brissett, and then naming Brissett as the starter a couple days later. You can't run it back after all of the stuff that has gone on this year. And I think the final nail in the coffin was ultimately the culture breaking down these last few weeks. Jelani Tavai calling out the fans, saying they need to know their place. He got booed heavily at Gillette Stadium today. Hearing Keon White saying there needs to be major changes here. I will give the Patriots credit that for the most part, all of the players, except for maybe Keon White, played very hard for Jerod Mayo. They had his back. Drake May certainly had his back. Has had Alex Van Pelt's back as well all season long. But that's what you want to see out of your players. You want them to stick up for their coach regardless of how their coach is doing. And to Mayo's credit, for the most part, the players did that. And they played hard these last few weeks up until the LA Chargers game. But they played hard today in a game that they shouldn't have won. They won the game that they should have lost. They won 23-16 against the Buffalo Bills, losing out on the number 1 draft pick. I'm not going to knock Mayo for that, but ultimately, the decision was clearly made a few days ago. If this statement was issued immediately after the game, as it was. And, I think there's some knowledge there from Robert Kraft that in all likelihood, Mike Vrabel is going to be the next head coach of the team. And give credit to Mike Vrabel. He made all the right moves these last few weeks, assuming he gets the Patriots job. The Patriots are going to go through their interviews, right? They'll have Vrabel in. I think Ben Johnson will be interested. We've heard reports that he might be interested. Still got to follow the Rooney Rule. I hope they give Brian Flores an interview if he's interested, if those bridges aren't too burned. So they're still going to have to go through this process. We'll see what happens with the front office and Elliott Wolf. Maybe news will break on that in just a moment while I'm talking about this podcast. But overall, I do think Robert Kraft knows Mike Vrabel wants the job. And he put out all the feelers the last few weeks, kind of floating it out there. Tom Curran, Greg Bedard with some early reports. Mike Vrabel would be interested in being the next Patriots head coach. And then we hear Tony Pauline comes out with a report this past week saying Mike Vrabel is just using the Jets as leverage to get the Patriots head coaching job. And then he goes ahead and interviews with the Jets before the season's even over, putting the fear into Robert Kraft of Mike Vrabel having to coach the Jets for the next decade, playing against the Patriots twice a year when you could have had him. And when you could have had him as a clear upgrade from Jerod Mayo, you didn't want to see Mike Vrabel on the New York Jets sideline. And look, nothing's happened yet. Maybe it'll still happen. Maybe Vrabel will be their coach. Maybe Ben Johnson blows the Krafts away. Maybe there's someone we're not even thinking about right now. The OC down in Tampa or John Gruden. I don't know. There's Pete Carroll wants to come back. I don't think he's going to be the New England Patriots head coach again. But, there may be some interviews that are a bit surprising. And I hope the Patriots and Robert Kraft go through a full process, not just with the head coaching position, but, with the front office, with all the coordinators, and make sure that they fill out the staff that they ultimately want. And, if you're firing Jerod Mayo, my biggest guess is you're firing the entire coaching staff. That's generally how it works, and the head coach can bring in his coaching staff. Tough luck for Alex Van Pelt, who I think did deserve to be back, even though I wasn't that impressed with him creatively as a play caller. I think he did a great job with the development of Drake May and all that he did there. I hope that if it is Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson or whoever, I don't want to see him back as offensive coordinator, but I hope Alex Van Pelt and whoever the next head coach is would consider putting him as the quarterback's coach behind Drake May. I think he would do an excellent job there. And I don't know if there's a lot of runway left for Alex Van Pelt at this point as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He had a chance to call plays this year, was an OC with Cleveland where he didn't call plays. It was Stefanski who did it. I think AVP might be running out of opportunities there, and a quarterback's coach is really his only option at this point in all likelihood, and I hope he stays in New England, and I hope that opportunity happens. I'm seeing a tweet. Elliott Wolf is expected to return as the Patriots' de facto GM. I think this is Andrew Callahan. Let me just take a quick look at this. Sorry, news is breaking as I record this right now. Andrew Callahan, Elliott Wolf is expected to return as the Patriots' executive vice president of player personnel per source. It wasn't Callahan who reported it. He credited Chad Graff. So Elliott Wolf expected to be back. I'm not that surprised about it. I think, I've been higher on Elliott Wolf than most. He has a great reputation in the league. He certainly has plenty of experience, too. I don't love this Packer way stuff. Like, I like the Patriots way. I like the team that won 6 Super Bowls, not the Packers who won 1 and really should have won 2 to 3 with Aaron Rodgers. I don't love the Packer way, but Elliott Wolf is a guy I'm kind of willing to give another chance. That said, if you're bringing in a guy like Mike Vrabel, I think he would want to weigh in on who the GM is, but presumably Vrabel's agent has talked to Robert Kraft or talked to someone who talked to Robert Kraft, and he was okay with Elliott Wolf being the GM. Again, I'm just making a big assumption here that Mike Vrabel is going to be the next head coach. But if the Krafts are firing Jerod Mayo before the players have even left the building in their season finale, well, I think he has knowledge that Vrabel is going to be the Patriots head coach, or, he's going to do the interviews and he's going to be able to handpick whoever he wants, whether it is Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson or somebody else. Brian Flores, as I floated out. Greg Bedard just coming out said, according to multiple sources, if Kraft comes to the realization he made the wrong choice with Mayo, he wouldn't hesitate to rectify. Okay, this is a report from December 10th, so that's not breaking news. But again, coming out right now, Jerod Mayo is no longer the New England Patriots head coach. Robert Kraft didn't even wait until Monday. Jerod Mayo out as head coach. Elliott Wolf, according to Chad Graff, still in as the Patriots de facto GM, whatever his title is, executive VP, executive vice president of player personnel. So Elliott Wolf probably back, Jerod Mayo out, coaching staff in all likelihood entirely gone. We'll see who's retained if Alex Van Pelt comes back, but I'm glad they're not doing these half measures. I guess you could say keeping Elliott Wolf is a half measure, but and firing Jerod Mayo, but you're going to have an entirely new coaching staff there next year, and Mike Vrabel did a good job at recruiting in Tennessee. He found Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. He found the current head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Those were his 2 offensive coordinators. He made great hires while he was there. I think he's going to do a great job if he ultimately comes to New England. But again, Jerod Mayo out as the Patriots head coach. And I'll get to what I talked about on the other podcast that I just recorded that I now have to say all over again. But the Patriots disappointingly win 23-16 over the Buffalo Bills, squandering the number 1 overall draft pick and falling to number 4 with the Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, and New York Giants all losing on Sunday, or the Browns lost Saturday. So the Patriots will be drafting 4th overall, and that probably ruins any chance of them selecting Travis Hunter, who I consider really the only real star coming out of this draft. And this is a weak draft, unfortunately. And being at number 4, you're not going to have the opportunity to bring in this massive haul with, future first-round picks or another second-round pick. This is a weak draft, though, so I don't think you were going to get the same haul a team would get by trading the number 1 pick last year or the year before. But it is disappointing because Travis Hunter, I would have really liked to see in a Patriots uniform I think they would have played him at wide receiver, to be honest, just because they need speed. They need some separation. Yeah, it's nice to have that big-bodied boundary X, and I'm sure they're going to consider Tet McMillan, who is that guy. Tremendous catch radius, but he's not a speedy guy, and the Patriots need receivers that ultimately separate. And I thought Travis Hunter could bring that, and then you play him in key situations, third down, red zone on defense. I thought he would have been an excellent pick, but if the Patriots had only fallen to third overall, they probably would have still had a shot at Travis Hunter, but at this point, I don't think it's going to happen. But ultimately, Patriots, the reason they won that game 23-16 is because Joe Milton absolutely went off. Near flawless game, 22 of 29 passing. Most of those incompletions were just throwaways. 241 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers, no sacks. Only had 16 yards rushing on the ground. He extended a lot of plays with his legs, but he wasn't running downfield. He was making plays with his legs and then throwing it downfield when he faced pressure often. And I think that's the one silver lining coming out of this game is that Joe Milton gives the Patriots the opportunity to maybe pick up an additional third or fourth round pick if they're willing to flip him and trade him away. I think a second round pick might be a little generous. Again, take this performance with a grain of salt. There's going to be Patriots fans out there that are saying Joe Milton is better than Drake May. That's just not the case. He was going up against the Bills JV squad, really the Bills freshman squad, if we're being honest. And because of that, the Patriots, I know they took Onwenu out after the first quarter. They brought in Caden Wallace and took out Vidarian Lowe, but for the most part, they kept their starting offensive line out there most of the game, and they were able to protect the quarterback in Joe Milton in ways that they were not able to protect Drake May all season long because Von Miller was no longer out there. You were going up against fourth, third string pass rushers. And because of that, Joe Milton had all the time in the world. And when he faced pressure, he's a guy that's hard to bring down. You cannot sack that guy. Broke a ton of potential sacks and made some incredible plays. Really has a great connection, Joe Milton does, with Kayshon Boutte. 7 catches for 117 yards Kayshon Boutte had today. Probably would have had more than that if he didn't go out seemingly with a concussion, Kayshon Boutte. But Joe Milton, just a spectacular performance today. And yeah, I know that's the silver lining. The Patriots, they're not going to probably be able to trade back their pick and get the haul that they wanted drafting first overall, but you could get a third or a fourth in all likelihood for Joe Milton. There's plenty of quarterback needy teams, and they're going to see the tape from that game and say, wow, this is a guy, we don't even need that much more development. He could be a starter in this league fairly quickly. But with that in mind, I actually don't want the Patriots to trade him. I really don't. Drake May already got hurt once this season. Very similar quarterbacks, Drake May and Joe Milton. Joe Milton, a little taller, a little larger, a little stronger arm, a little faster. That doesn't mean he's a better player. He's less accurate, although he was very accurate today. Not as instinctive. His decision-making isn't anywhere near what Drake May's is, but really good performance. And if Drake May goes down, let's say hypothetically, with an ACL injury week 3 next year, having Joe Milton as your backup, a guy that you can keep that continuity going with, is huge. You don't have to change the game plan if Drake May goes down. Joe Milton will be able to pick right back up. And he did a great job leading the practice squad this year. Joe Milton did, or leading the what do you call it? I'm losing it. When you're pretending to be the quarterback in the other team, that's what Joe Milton did all season long. Did an excellent job there. And the scout team, I believe it's the scout team, that's what it is. Milton, very accurate. I'm very impressed with him. I hope he comes back. And yeah, I know the Patriots will have an opportunity. Some team will want him, but I don't expect Drake May to play 17 games consistently year after year. Hopefully he does most seasons, but you want a guy like Joe Milton. He's on a rookie contract. He's cheap. He doesn't cost you anything. Drake May's still cheap. Doesn't cost you anything. I think you keep both on the roster. Drake May is going to be the starter. He's the future franchise quarterback, but, let them compete a little bit and let Joe Milton continue to develop, and you have to put him in there. You feel pretty good about yourself, and, if the Patriots can somehow get back into playoff contention next year, they lose Drake May in the wild card round. You want a guy like Joe Milton. I'm not as comfortable with a Jacoby Brissett as the backup. He did a great job this year. If Milton sucked today, I would have said bring Jacoby Brissett back, sign him again on a 1-year deal, keep him as the backup, but I think Milton certainly earned that role today. So it is disappointing, though, that the Patriots won this game. It was a really bad atmosphere at Gillette. About half of the seats were filled. Pretty much all of the upper deck, the vast majority of it, was empty. The crowd just booing throughout, booing made field goals by Joey Sly, booing the team as they run off the field after they win 23-16 over their rival Buffalo Bills. Robert Kraft sitting in the owner's box. I don't think I remember the last time he had the windows shut. At least when it was clear weather. Windows were shut. He had about 5 or 6 people sitting in the owner's box throughout the game. It was just a disgusting situation. And to see this franchise that was so successful for 2 decades and, had the greatest quarterback of all time, arguably the greatest coach of all time, and to see how far they've fallen, one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, seeing the defense become what it was. They had a good defense last year, wasn't good this year. Some change had to be done. And, I will give Jerod Mayo credit that his players still played hard, and I'll give the players credit that they didn't give up and they did a good job out there, even if ultimately it wasn't what was best for the organization. That's the one thing I think Jerod Mayo had going for him, is that the players did play hard for him, and they showed it today. They had his back throughout the week, most of the week, other than Keon White. And, they ended up winning a game because the Bills were not trying to win. Once I saw Mike White come out there in the second half, I knew, okay, the Patriots, Mike White versus the way Joe Milton is playing right now. Mitchell Trubisky actually looked pretty good, but Mike White couldn't do a damn thing. You knew at that point that the Patriots were probably winning this game. And it's a big difference drafting first overall and drafting fourth overall. And look, here's what I will say. Like I said, this is not the best draft. Scout D, I encourage you to follow him on X, has an excellent track record, really breaks down all the draft prospects very well year after year. Just to give you an idea, he said the guy he has number 8 on this year's NFL mock draft board, he would have had it 25 last year. And then you have Shadur Sanders, who I think is going to start to fall down the draft board. A lot of people think it's going to go 1-2, Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, vice versa. I think Shadur Sanders is probably going to drop. I think Cam Ward is going to be drafted ahead of him. I believe it or not, I don't watch a ton of Miami Hurricanes football, but from what I've seen from Cam Ward, he has looked pretty impressive. He could be the first overall pick for all we know, but I don't think you were going to get a tremendous haul. Patriots had this pipe dream that if they landed the number 1 overall pick, they would get the team they traded with, their first round pick, their second round pick, a future first round pick, and then a Pro Bowl caliber player. And you just weren't going to be able to do that. What I think you probably could have done if the Patriots had the number 1 pick is you trade back with a team like the Raiders, you get their second round pick, and then you get a star player like Max Crosby. And then you take care of the elite pass rusher that you're missing. I think that would have worked out pretty well, and then you take a tackle. That's probably the best the Patriots could have had with number 1 overall, but they're not going to have that opportunity at 4th overall. And we all know what the needs are. They need an edge rusher. They need a tackle, maybe even 2 tackles. They need a number 1 wide receiver, either a boundary X, big-bodied guy like Ted McMillan, or a speedy wide receiver that's going to create separation. I think the latter is more important. The problem is you're not going to be able to get Travis Hunter, so I don't think you're going to be able to get that guy in the draft, so you might have to find him in free agency. But it is a bummer seeing the Patriots win and seeing just this organization become increasingly dysfunctional, but give Robert Kraft some credit. I didn't think he had the guts to do it. Well, actually, I did. I did think he had the guts. I think things had gotten so bad, but Kraft did the right thing. And the fact that he announced this and he issued a statement, minutes after the conclusion of the Bills-Patriots game shows that Kraft has still got it. He still wants to win here, and that there's some other news that we're waiting to hear. And in all likelihood, my educated guess, is that Mike Vrabel will be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. It sounds like Elliot Wolf is coming back, and there's also the possibility, we've heard rumors, Greg Bedard's the one that floated it out there, Josh McDaniels been linked to Mike Vrabel. Will he be the offensive coordinator once again in New England? I think that would be very helpful for Drake May. I would absolutely love, for it to be Mike Vrabel as the head coach, Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, and Alex Van Pelt stays on as the quarterback's coach. I think that would be the perfect situation. Another name floated out there if he does indeed get fired from New York. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice because I've recorded multiple podcasts with all this breaking news. Brian Daboll might get fired by the New York Giants. The Giants have shown a little bit of life at the end of the season, though. And Daboll does have a pretty good reputation. He's the one that, he worked with the Patriots before. He's the one that built up Josh Allen, that ultimately landed him the job in New York. Has never had a real great quarterback to work with as the head coach in the New York Giants. Daboll's another possibility. I lean more in the McDaniels camp than the Daboll camp, but I think you're good either way, in all honesty. But the biggest thing a guy like Mike Vrabel would bring is just improving that defense and just making sure guys like Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Keon White play to their best of their ability. I mean, I know he was dealing with an injury all year, it sounds like, but Kyle Duggar, super disappointing this year. How many big plays did he give up? How many big plays was he responsible for? He cost the Patriots multiple games single-handedly on defense this season. I think Mike Vrabel will be able to patch things up like that, but there's going to be lots to talk about. I think the coaching search is going to begin. I think we all know it's going to be Vrabel in all likelihood, but will be fun to see, if Ben Johnson's in that mix, if Brian Flores is in that mix, if there's another wild card guy we're not thinking about. But give the Crafts credit for actually being willing to make this move and to get rid of Jerod Mayo. Bummer of a day seeing the Patriots lose out on the number 1 draft pick, but look, they'll still have a chance. They could take the best tackle. I really like Abdul Carter, the edge rusher. Is he Myles Garrett? No, but he's probably the second most athletic, star-capable player of this draft. In all likelihood, he'll be available at 4th overall. So if that's who they end up with and they can add some tackles in free agency, then that would be a pretty good draft. But it is a little bit of a bummer there. But again, big story coming out of today. The Patriots lose the number 1 draft pick. Jerod Mayo out as the Patriots head coach. Elliott Wolf, according to Chad Graff, staying on as the executive vice president of player personnel. And of course, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson, lingering there in the background. It's going to be a lot to talk about in these coming weeks. And I know it was a disappointing season, but there's a lot of hope, there's a lot of optimism, and there's a lot of opportunity here for the Patriots to turn this thing around pretty quickly and get back to where they once were. I think they have enough talent defensively, and if they add a few more pieces offensively, they can be a playoff team next year with the right cultural fixes and with the right head coach. But it's going to take a lot to get there, and a lot of things are going to need to go right. They're going to need to have a good draft for that to happen. And you make the playoffs next year, then who knows what could happen the year after that with Drake May heading into his 3rd season. But was a dysfunctional season, but there's a lot of hope, a lot of optimism going forward. Curious to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. Are you bummed about losing the number 1 draft pick? And who would you like to see as the Patriots head coach? Did Robert Kraft make the right decision? Are you a Mike Vrabel guy? Are you a Ben Johnson guy? Is there someone else that you're eyeing as their head coach? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Gonna be fun. You're gonna want to subscribe to this channel. It's gonna be an interesting offseason. We'll be here at Pat's Cast to cover it. We'll see you throughout the week.
The season's over, the fans all gone. Jerod Mayo's first year, cut to the bone. Robert Kraft's got the guts, no time to delay. A champion's vision will show us the way. Who's it gonna be to take the throne? A Patriot legend or someone unknown? Pat's Cast rocking the